was that his age could change. Sometimes he appeared as a baby, but other times he looked about the same age as me, toddling across the floor. He wasn't there constantly either, but seemed to come and go. Late one cold winter afternoon, just as it was getting dark, I was alone in the little living room of the house in Old Kilmainham. There was fire in the open fireplace, which was the only light in the room. The firelight flickered across the floor where I was sitting, playing with little wooden building blocks that my father had made. Christopher came to play with me. He sat nearer the fire. He said that it was too hot for me where he was, but it was okay for him as he didn't feel the heat. Together we built a tower. I would put one brick down and he would put another on top of it. The tower was getting very tall and then, suddenly, our hands touched. I was amazed. He felt so different from other people I touched. When I touched him, he sparked. It was as if there were little stars flying. At that moment, I went into him, or perhaps he went into me. It was as if we merged and became one. In my shock, I knocked over our tower of blocks. I burst out laughing, then I touched him again. I think that was the first time I fully realized that he wasn't flesh and blood. I never confused Christopher with an angel. The angels I saw did sometimes have a human appearance, but when they did, most of them had wings, and their feet did not touch the ground, and they had a sort of bright light shining inside them. Some of the time, the angels I saw would have no human aspect at all, but appeared as a sharp, glowing light. Christopher appeared around my mum a lot. Sometimes Mum would be sitting in the chair by the fire and would doze off, and I'd see him cradled in her arms. I didn't know whether my mother was aware of Christopher's presence, so I asked him, "Will I tell Mum that you're here?" "No, you can't tell her," he replied. "She won't understand, but sometimes she feels me." One winter morning, the angels came to my bed as the sun was coming up. I was curled up under the blankets. My sister Emer, with whom I shared the bed, was up and about, and instead Christopher was curled up beside me. He tickled me and said, Look, Lorna, over at the window." As I have said, angels can appear in different forms and sizes. This morning they looked like snowflakes. The glass in the window seemed to become a vapour, and as each snowflake hit the window it was transformed into an angel about the size of a baby. The angels were then carried on a beam of sunlight through the window, and each one seemed to be covered in white and shiny snowflakes. As the angels touched me, the snowflakes fell from them onto me. They tickled as they landed and, surprisingly, they felt warm, not cold. "Wouldn't it be wonderful," Christopher said, "if everybody knew that they could fill their pockets with angels, that they could fit thousands of angels into one pocket, just like with snowflakes, and could carry them around with them and never be alone?" I turned and asked, "What if they melted in their pockets?" Christopher giggled and said, "No, angels never melt." I rather sadly replied, "Christopher, I wish that you could fit in my mum's pocket like a snowflake and be there for her all the time." He turned and looked at me as we were cuddled up in bed and said, "You know I'm there already." When I was an adult, my mother told me she had had a baby son called Christopher, who had been born a year before me but had only lived 10 weeks. I just smiled in response. I remember asking her where Christopher was buried, and she told me that it was in an unmarked grave, as was the custom in those days, in a baby's graveyard in Dublin. It's sad that there is no grave with his name on it that I can go and visit, but he's not forgotten. Sometimes, even now, all these years later, I feel Christopher's hand in my pocket pretending to make snowflakes, reminding me I am never alone. I learned more about Christopher and my mother one day when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I was sitting